bringing the business users in, understanding their needs, either for stuff that we're shipping or for custom apps that you might build for a customer. That's really the key to driving adoption and blocking the people who say, no, it can't be done that way. If they're the ones proposing a better solution and you ask those questions, well, could you do this? Could you do this? All right, that's an interesting requirement. How often do you do that? Once a quarter. Would it be okay if you had a separate process for that one thing and then had this other better way for the rest of the time? Oftentimes you'll get a yes out of that. I think if you mandated it, you would get a hard no. So that's bringing the blockers into the process is how you make them part of the fix and not being on the sidelines, feeling like the world is passing them by.
Thank you so much for joining another edition of the Never-Ending Climb for a Stronger Supply Chain and Procurement for companies running SAP. Today, we have one of the OGs of user experience for SAP, Peter Spielvogel. So happy you could join us today. Peter has been instrumental in moving the needle on user experience, and he's part of the product organization that helps make sure that user experience keeps evolving and helps share that out with folks so that they know how much better it's got when you're on one of the current releases. Peter, thank you so much for joining. Always amazing to see you.
Yeah, great to see you, Sean. It's been, I guess, a couple of months. We had some good conversations at Sapphire as we were bombarded by various AI messages, and I'm excited to see these things are turning into reality, both on your side and also on ours. So definitely an exciting year and thrilled to be here.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, Peter. I love seeing the progress, and I can hardly believe. I mean, when I think about how long it's taken organizations to not just not even eliminate yet, but just reduce the number of mainframe applications out there. When I think about it's about 10 years ago, this concept of Fiori was released, and it's now, what were the latest numbers? It's like 70%, isn't it? Of companies.
Yeah, I think a study said 69% of customers were using Fiori, and we've come a long way. We still have a way to go, but yeah, as you said, in the realm of enterprise,
wow,
reaching 70% is a big deal. So
0 to 70 in a decade, Peter. That's
and awareness is
incredible.
99%. So people know about it. It's just a matter of why are they not taking that final step to bring a modern experience to their users.
Oh, unbelievable. And so when you think back, like even 7, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, people were saying, no, it's not going to work. Nobody's using it, blah, blah, blah. Look at this, 70%. It is the new user experience, and I love it. So hats off to you and all of the team that are helping make that happen. I know we use it and we're so grateful for it. I love the way there's empathy that comes with understanding. Like there's things that get in the way of change. And nobody wants to be that guy that's vetoing innovation for a petty reason, or nobody wants to let that guy stand in the way of innovation for something that's just a selfish reason. And there's all of these what if edge cases of, well, but once a quarter we have to do this thing, and so we can't use the new thing because it doesn't do all the things the old thing did. As if the expert that says this, that does something once a quarter, can stand in the way of the thousands of other people that just need it easier 99% of the time. How are you seeing companies push through that to make a difference and not let the needs of a few stand in the way of the benefit of the many?
I think the progressive organizations just move forward. They look at the vast majority. They look at what are the processes that are happening day in and day out that take more time in the GUI. They have numbers to back it up. It's very easy to quantify throughput and productivity. And they say, Fiori is a better way. That's what we're doing. And for the few people who really do have unique needs, they can keep the GUI, but everyone else, it's just much easier. If it's web-based, there's nothing to maintain on the desktop. In a lot of cases, you can use Fiori on multiple devices. I mean, it's designed that the framework of Fiori elements, you can build a web app that runs on a phone, a tablet, or a desktop. And people are smart enough to say, okay, I'm not going to reconcile the quarter on my phone. I'll use that app on the desktop. But for simple things, approvals or lookups or creating a notification if you're in the field, that's a way better way. I mean, looking back to the early days, we had people in a giant warehouse the size of several football fields who would ride a tricycle out with a notepad, look at the physical inventory and write it down, then ride back to the central pen and then key it into SAP. Can you imagine that? As opposed to going out with a scanner and just grabbing the barcodes and it's all connected. That's within the last decade, people were doing that.
I could flash back to 7, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, you and me at events presenting stories of things our team had done to go help with that barcoding stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And to the idea that 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, people were still running around with the notepads. The scary thing is people are still doing it today. And sometimes it's that hesitation to go and make a change that makes it so hard.
Yeah, the human factor is definitely one. Even with bringing a better user experience to people, if they're not involved in the process, they don't want to be part of the solution. And you mentioned earlier on the word empathy, and I think that's really what it comes down to. In developing applications, either apps that we build inside, we always do extensive user research to understand what do people need in their jobs, and then showing them early prototypes. And AI is really helping with that because we can generate prototypes a whole lot faster directly from a business requirements document. And even a sketch is something we'll work on. You draft the app on a whiteboard, which is something I know is standard part of your process. But now you take a picture of it, load it through Joule, and now you've got a functioning application. That's very much of a wow factor. But bringing the business users in, understanding their needs, either for stuff that we're shipping or for custom apps that you might build for a customer, that's really the key to driving adoption and blocking the people who say, no, it can't be done that way. If they're the ones proposing a better solution and you ask those questions, well, could you do this? Could you do this? All right, that's an interesting requirement. How often do you do that? Once a quarter. Would it be okay if you had a separate process for that one thing and then had this other better way for the rest of the time? Oftentimes you'll get a yes out of that. I think if you mandated it, you would get a hard no. So that's bringing the blockers into the process is how you make them part of the fix and not being on the sidelines, feeling like the world is passing them by.
And I love the way teams are able to go and call him Bob, that's got the 17 things that need to happen once a month, once a quarter for 2 people over in one department. But there's the 95% of stuff that people just need to get done. And when you can bring something like that and it just comes off the SAP store, it's already Fiori, it's certified, etc., and just boom, deploy it, man, does that make a difference? And then if there's a handful of things for Bob that he has to do once a month, once a quarter, if there's a business case for it, you can invest in that. Or you could say, hey, Bob, just for those things, just use the old way.
You can also, Bob has a certain role that's defined.
Yeah.
So for that role, give them a dedicated tile that takes them to the full dashboard that does it all. And for everyone else, they have a tile that takes them to the quick way. And that's really the Launchpad and now My Home makes it so much easier to do that. You don't need to have variants. Just here's a tile. And if it's only Bob, you could even name it Bob's special quarterly tile. And now he
Here
feels
you go, Bob.
about going in and doing that edge case. And everyone else has, rapid, whatever the process is.
That segregation is so key, right? It's the perpetual novice against the specialized expert. Because the ratio of specialized expert to perpetual novice for a basic function in purchasing, whether it's a requisition or uh, updating a contract that maybe it's a smaller group, but then you get an invoice that you need to review and approve. These things just need to be so simple, and they need to be geared to the perpetual novice that doesn't need training, don't do it every day, but they have to do it. And when they have to do it, it has to be clear, simple, and fast so that they can just get it done. And that segregation, I think, has been one of those ingredients that we've both seen help organizations move much faster, is to not try to make it one thing for everybody, including the experts over here. Because something that's designed for and by experts is often confusing as all hell to the average person.
Yeah, we saw a great example of that at Sapphire a few years ago. A higher education company was looking at their procurement processes, and initially they had that middle one that worked for no one, and then they did some analysis and looked at the personas and said, okay, we have some professional buyers and they need everything, and we have the perpetual novices, as you said, that buy something every quarter and it's office equipment, and in their head, buying is you go to a shopping cart, you pick what you want, you hit buy, and it comes to you. So that's what they built. They built a simplified portal for the regular people in the organization, and it was very limited. You had a catalog you select from. You didn't choose terms or shipping or anything else. And then you didn't have to worry about contracts. It got charged to your cost center, shipped to your office, and that was it. So
Done.
literally an easy button for the perpetual novices, and everyone else had what the few buyers had what they needed to get their professional intake and orchestration work done.
And you
And you
nailed
mentioned
the term.
invoicing. I
That's
think that's
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 the
the
new term,
magic with
is intake
AI
and
now, right?
orchestration. That's the new term. Super excited, by the way. We're launching the next edition 2.0 of our intake orchestration this fall. I can't wait to get you a preview of it. The idea behind it is basically to increase the automation and make the statement true. It doesn't matter what the background is. That person has one spot to go and ask for what they need, see how it's doing, when's it going to be done, and an easy way to go see, like, is it ready? What's next? Who is it waiting for approval? Where is it in the process? And that transparency makes it feel simple and clear and easy. And it makes the difference between, like, when you order something and it randomly shows up and you're like, oh, there it is. And oh, I order something and oh, I see it's processing. Oh, I see it's shipped. And oh, here's a little dot with the truck that's coming to bring it to my door. That experience gap is what intake and orchestration is really starting to solve for those, I'll call them the perpetual novice in the business. They just need something. They don't want to have to be bothered with policy and process and system. They just need something to do their job. And it's our job to go make it so easy for them to get it that they don't need training. And like you and I got to present on that, like in 2015, of how we did that for, or like 500 unionized staff, new policy, new trend, like
Right.
new process, new bylaw, public sector, 500 unionized staff, no training, rolled it out to them because you make it that easy. And so watching the evolution of that come through in the last few years, so fun, so fun.
Yeah, the no training is really a key point, because the original Fiori was, how do we simplify this and make it that it's a consumer-like experience? And I
Yeah.
never really liked the term and was always, what's a consumer-like experience? Well, it's Amazon. It's something where you open an app on your phone and you know how to use it, and there's no training. Oh, here's Starbucks. Order. Here's the menu. Click, click. What store? What customizations? And then it's
Yep.
done.
You don't
And it
need
might be
training to
different for
order an
you.
Uber.
Or ordering Uber. Yeah, exactly. There's no training involved. And we're definitely getting there with Fiori. Some of the more complex apps with tables and variants, okay, you still need some training,
You
but
need to understand the context. Yeah.
you need to understand the context. But if you take a new user and put them in front of My Home, they've got the notifications and the to-do items in situations right at the top. This is what you need to do now. You don't need to
Yeah.
go digging through the system. Let me check this. Let me check that. It comes to you. And then the apps are grouped. And if you don't know, you can find it. We're working on some AI where you can just say, I need to check my travels, open travel requests, and then it'll bring up a card with a list of those. And then you have it at a glance. And if it's something that is not a one off, you can say, add it to my screen. And then you've got a card that is not a snapshot of that, but it's the app with the latest list. And then you can drill down. So really making that, taking the no training to the next level and
Make that the standard. I love it. Peter, I know we've got so many more stories that we can share, and we're running out of time. So I really want to thank you for all of the work, the effort, the passion, blood, sweat, and tears for the last decade as one of those key people that's just been part of the change. And it's a sea change. Like 69, 70% in a decade is amazing, Peter. So hats off to you and the team. Thank you again, as always. And I hope we can continue the conversation in another episode soon.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. And thanks to the 180 colleagues around the world who are delivering these innovations for collaboration and AI and just making the Fiori experience better. So thanks for having me. And I guess I'll see you at one of the
see
next
you again soon.
event. Yeah, Tech Connect or something.
Amazing. And thanks to all of you for listening. This has been another edition of The Never Ending Climb for a Stronger Supply Chain and Procurement for companies running SAP. Thanks, guys.